On August 6, 2025, Felicia Gross had no idea that the 911 call she was about to make would be the beginning of her own downfall. "My son is missing," she would tell police, her voice filled with what sounded like genuine panic. But what investigators would discover 6 days later would shake the small community of Jackson, Kentucky to its core and reveal a truth so twisted that even seasoned detectives still struggle to comprehend how a mother could do the unthinkable to her own child. This is the story of Jayden Spicer, a 10-year-old boy whose infectious energy could light up any room he entered. Jayden wasn't just any ordinary kid. He was the type of child who wore his heart on his sleeve and his favorite characters on his pajamas. Those who knew him described him as spunky, hyperactive, and full of life. He had bright blue eyes that sparkled with mischief and blonde hair that seemed to bounce with every step he took. Jayden's world revolved around two things that made him happiest: Sonic the Hedgehog and Spider-Man. His favorite colors were red and blue, not because of any sports team or random preference, but because they represented his beloved superheroes. You might think you know what makes a child happy, but for Jayden, it was simple: fast hedgehogs, web-slinging heroes, and the promise of adventure that each new day brought. Living on Panbull Branch Road in Jackson, Kentucky, Jayden was part of a tight-knit community where everyone knew everyone else's business. His aunts, Samantha Brunty and Chai Salyers, adored him. They would later describe him as a boy who was always on the go, always looking for the next adventure, though there were two things that could stop Jayden dead in his tracks: insects and the dark. But little did anyone know that someone very close to Jayden had been making plans that would forever change this hyperactive, loving child's world. Someone who should have been his protector was about to become his worst nightmare. Before we continue with the rest of this story, can I ask you for a quick favor? Please hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell. It's the best way to make sure you never miss our next gripping true crime release. Your support means the world and helps us keep uncovering stories just like this one. Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, started like any other evening in the Spicer household. Jayden had put on his favorite blue Sonic the Hedgehog pajama pants and matching shirt, the same outfit his family would later describe to police when filing the missing person report. The 10-year-old went to bed around 9 p.m., just as he had countless nights before. You might assume that a mother tucking her child into bed would be thinking about tomorrow's breakfast, or perhaps wondering if she remembered to pack his lunch. But according to what would later unfold, Felicia Gross had something entirely different on her mind that night. At exactly 9:30 a.m. on August 6th, Felicia Gross made the call that would launch one of Kentucky's most extensive missing child searches. Her voice trembling with apparent anguish, she told the 911 operator that her son Jayden was gone. She explained that she had checked his room that morning and found it empty. No note, no explanation, just an empty bed where her 10-year-old should have been sleeping. What happened next would consume the community for 6 agonizing days. Within hours of that initial 911 call, Panbull Branch Road was swarming with activity. Kentucky State Police arrived with everything they had: all-terrain vehicles, specially trained search dogs, drones equipped with thermal imaging, helicopters scanning from above, and even sonar equipment to search nearby water sources. The search was so extensive that authorities had to ask curious onlookers to stay away from the area so the teams could work effectively. State Trooper Matt Gayhart coordinated what would become one of the most comprehensive missing child searches in the region's recent memory. The community rallied around the Gross family in ways that would bring tears to your eyes. Volunteers spent countless hours combing through wooded areas, following up on tips, and sharing Jayden's photo across social media platforms. But what the searchers didn't know was that they were looking for a child who was never actually missing in the traditional sense. While dozens of volunteers scoured the countryside under the blazing August sun, while search dogs followed scent trails that led nowhere, while drones captured footage of empty fields and vacant buildings, the truth lay buried just miles away from where everyone was looking. On August 7th, just one day after reporting her son missing, Felicia Gross did something that would later seem particularly chilling in hindsight. She provided a handwritten statement to police, which they shared with local media. In carefully crafted words, she wrote, We want him safe at home. Please, if anybody see my son Jayden Spicer, please report it to the Jackson Police Department. We love him very much. Please do the right thing, call the police. Please pray for us." Reading those words now, knowing what investigators would later discover, you can't help but wonder, was this a genuine plea from a desperate mother, or was it part of an elaborate performance designed to throw investigators off the trail? By August 8th, authorities made the decision to broaden their search efforts. Trooper Gayhart announced to the media and worried community members that they had thoroughly searched all areas of priority but had found no trace of the missing 10-year-old. The announcement sent chills through everyone who had been following the case. If the professionals hadn't found anything after 3 days of intensive searching, where could Jayden possibly be? During this time, something else was happening that the public wasn't aware of. Behind closed doors, investigators were beginning to notice inconsistencies in the stories they were hearing. Jayden's aunts, Samantha and Chady, would later admit that there was some stuff that just doesn't add up in this case. These were family members who knew Jayden well, who understood his habits and behaviors, and something about the official narrative wasn't sitting right with them. You might wonder how family members could sense something was wrong when trained investigators were still treating this as a standard missing child case. But sometimes the people closest to a situation can pick up on subtle details that outsiders might miss. The aunts knew that while Jayden was hyperactive and loved adventure, he was also deeply afraid of two things: insects and darkness. This fear made it highly unlikely that he would have wandered off into the woods on his own, especially at night. Meanwhile, the search efforts continued to intensify. Additional agencies joined the hunt, bringing more sophisticated equipment and expertise. Every day that passed without finding Jayden increased the community's anxiety and the family's desperation. Tuesday, August 12th, started like the 5 days before it, with search teams preparing for another day of looking for a missing child. But at exactly 3:17 p.m., everything changed when Kentucky State Police received what they described as new information related to the disappearance of Jayden Spicer. What police haven't revealed publicly is exactly what prompted Felicia Gross to finally tell the truth. Was it the mounting pressure of the investigation? Was it guilt finally overwhelming her ability to maintain the deception? Or was it the fear that investigators were getting too close to uncovering evidence that would expose her lies? Whatever the trigger, Felicia Gross sat down with investigators that afternoon and made a confession that would send shockwaves through the community. In clinical, matter-of-fact language that would haunt everyone who heard it, she admitted that Jayden had never actually gone missing. She told investigators that she had given her son sleeping medication and that she believed this medication had caused a fatal medical emergency. But what Gross told police next was even more chilling. Rather than call 911, rather than rush her son to the hospital, rather than do what any parent would instinctively do when their child was in medical distress, Gross said she made a decision that defies comprehension. She decided that Jayden was beyond help, and she took his body to a remote wooded area near Canoe Road, close to the mouth of Joe Little Fork. The smell of disturbed earth would guide investigators to a shallow grave where Jayden's small body had been buried in a plastic tote, a final indignity for a child who had trusted his mother to protect him. As investigators processed the crime scene and began to piece together what had really happened, an even more sinister picture began to emerge. Gross hadn't just killed her son and buried his body. She had orchestrated an elaborate cover-up that had wasted thousands of hours of search efforts and caused immeasurable anguish to family members and community volunteers. According to the arrest citation, Gross had coached Jayden's two siblings about what to say when police interviewed them. Imagine being a child, processing the loss of your brother, and being told by your mother exactly what lies to tell the police officers who were trying to help find him. The psychological manipulation involved in coaching children to lie about their siblings' disappearance reveals a level of calculated deception that goes far beyond a moment of panic or poor judgment. These children had been living with the knowledge of what had happened to their brother while watching their aunts desperately search for him, while seeing their community come together to find him, while witnessing the massive search efforts that were all based on their mother's lie. The trauma these children experienced extends far beyond losing their brother. They were made unwilling participants in covering up his death. Jeff Turner, who had offered a reward for Jayden's safe return, spoke for many in the community when he said, "I don't see how a parent could react in that manner or fail to react and not get their child help." This sentiment captures the profound confusion and horror that gripped Jackson, Kentucky when the truth finally came to light. The revelation that Jayden had been dead for nearly a week while the entire community searched for him hit Jackson, Kentucky like a physical blow. Volunteers who had spent hours walking through dense brush and wooded areas suddenly realized they had been searching for a child whose mother knew exactly where he was the entire time. Search and rescue teams had to process the fact that while they were using sophisticated equipment to scan rivers and abandoned buildings, Jayden's body was lying in a shallow grave just miles away. Casey Burton, who had organized vigils for Jayden during the search, captured the community's sense of betrayal. "You just don't think something could happen here in your hometown. But when it did, it was like, oh wow, that's mind-blowing to me." But Burton also expressed something that showed the community's resilience and love for Jayden. "Justice is being served, and I just want to honor him. He was a baby, but I'm just happy he was found and now he can be put to rest in a proper way." The students at Jackson City schools, though Jayden didn't attend their school, organized their own tribute. Learning that Jayden's favorite colors were red and blue because of his love for Sonic and Spider-Man, students and faculty wore these colors to honor his memory. As senior student Dylan Strong explained, "It doesn't matter what school you go to, we want to support every student in every school, every district." This gesture of wearing Jayden's favorite colors became a powerful symbol of how the community chose to remember him, not as a victim of his mother's horrific actions, but as the superhero-loving, energetic boy who had brought joy to everyone who knew him. Felicia Gross was arrested and charged with second-degree manslaughter, abuse of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, falsely reporting an incident, and 2 counts of witness tampering. Each charge represents a different aspect of her betrayal, not just of Jayden, but of his siblings, his extended family, and an entire community that had mobilized to help find him. The charge of witness tampering specifically relates to her coaching of Jayden's siblings, highlighting how her deception extended beyond just hiding the crime. She had turned her surviving children into unwitting accomplices, forcing them to lie to the very people who were trying to help their brother. As Commonwealth's attorney Miranda King noted at the press conference announcing the charges, "We are devastated and collectively broken over this." King also revealed that the case had garnered attention from around the world, with people as far away as other countries expressing concern for Jayden and offering support to the community. The medical examiner's office would perform an autopsy to determine the exact cause of Jayden's death, though Gross had already admitted to giving him sleeping medication that she claimed caused a fatal medical emergency. Even with Gross's confession, many questions remain about what exactly happened in the Gross household on the night of August 5th. What type of sleeping medication did she give Jayden? How much did she administer? Was this truly an accident caused by medication, or was there a more sinister motive? Court records revealed that Felicia Gross had previous involvement with Child Protective Services, including a 2015 conviction for endangering the welfare of a minor. The conditions of her release in that earlier case had included submitting to random drug tests and following case plans set forth by Child Protective Services, details that take on new significance in light of Jayden's death. Perhaps even more troubling is the question of why Gross chose Coverup over calling for help. Even if she had accidentally overdosed Jayden with sleeping medication, Why didn't she call 911 immediately? Why didn't she attempt CPR or rush him to the hospital? Her decision to bury his body instead of seeking medical help suggests either panic so severe it overrode all parental instincts or something far more calculating. The coaching of Jayden's siblings also raises questions about premeditation. This wasn't just a spontaneous attempt to cover up an accident, it was a deliberate plan to manipulate children into lying to police officers who were investigating their brother's disappearance. Even with Gross's confession, many questions remain about what exactly happened in the Gross household on the night of August 5th. What type of sleeping medication did she give Jayden? How much did she administer? Was this truly an accident caused by medication, or was there a more sinister motive? Court records revealed that Felicia Gross had previous involvement with Child Protective Services, including a 2015 conviction for endangering the welfare of a minor. The conditions of her release in that earlier case had included submitting to random drug tests and following case plans set forth by Child Protective Services, details that take on new significance in light of Jayden's death. Perhaps even more troubling is the question of why Gross chose Coverup over calling for help. Even if she had accidentally overdosed Jayden with sleeping medication, why didn't she call 911 immediately? Why didn't she attempt CPR or rush him to the hospital? Her decision to bury his body instead of seeking medical help suggests either panic so severe it overrode all parental instincts or something far more calculating. The coaching of Jayden's siblings also raises questions about premeditation. This wasn't just a spontaneous attempt to cover up an accident. It was a deliberate plan to manipulate children into lying to police officers who were investigating their brother's disappearance. In the wake of these revelations, the community of Jackson, Kentucky faced the difficult task of processing their grief and trauma. The extensive search effort had brought people together in a way that small communities rarely experience. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years worked side by side looking for Jayden. Local businesses donated resources and time to support the search efforts. The entire region had united around a single goal, bringing Jayden home safely. Learning that this effort had been based on a lie created a unique type of grief, not just sadness over losing Jayden, but anger and betrayal over being deceived by the very person who should have been most concerned about finding him. Margaret Henson, the library media specialist at Highland Turner Elementary, where Jayden attended school, captured this complexity when she said, "Jayden's classmates ask daily if he's been found. The harsh reality is going to hit them tomorrow. Jayden didn't deserve any of this. He will be missed terribly." The community chose to focus their energy on honoring Jayden's memory in positive ways. Father Jim partnered with Soulshine Industries to create a custom Spider-Man themed casket for Jayden, a final tribute to the boy who loved superheroes. Candlelight vigils were organized where community members could come together to grieve and support each other. Schools throughout the district implemented counseling services for students and staff who needed help processing the tragedy. The recognition that this event had traumatized not just Jayden's immediate family, but an entire community showed the far-reaching impact of his mother's actions. What makes the Jayden Spicer case particularly devastating is how it exploited the best impulses of a community. When a child goes missing, people instinctively want to help. They volunteer their time, donate resources, share information on social media, and hold on to hope even when the odds seem impossible. Felicia Gross's deception turned this natural compassion into a weapon against the very people who were trying to help her son. Every hour that volunteers spent searching through difficult terrain was an hour stolen through lies. Every prayer said for Jayden's safe return was offered under false pretenses. Every social media share asking people to watch for a missing boy was spreading misinformation that Gross knew was completely fabricated. The psychological impact on the volunteers and searchers cannot be understated. These individuals had invested their hearts, their time, and their hope in finding Jayden alive. Learning that he had been dead the entire time while they searched creates a unique form of trauma, the realization that their noble efforts had been manipulated and misdirected by the person who had killed the child they were trying to save. For Jayden's extended family, the betrayal was even more personal. His aunts had created GoFundMe campaigns, organized search efforts, and held on to hope that their nephew would come home safely. They had trusted Felicia Gross, supported her through what they believed was every parent's worst nightmare, and advocated for resources to be directed toward finding Jayden. Learning that Gross had been lying to them while they grieved and searched creates a trauma that extends far beyond just losing Jayden. While many details of the case remain sealed as part of the ongoing legal proceedings, some troubling elements have emerged that paint an even darker picture of what happened. The YouTube channel creators Fred and Sheila McCoy, who had gained attention for finding the body of I-75 shooter Joseph Couch, visited Jayden's home during the search and recorded interactions with Felicia and Josh Gross. In their footage, they discovered a large piece of plastic containing boys' clothing, jackets, and shoes near the family property. When they asked about it, Josh Gross told them the clothes belonged to Jayden and that law enforcement left that there. This raises questions about what evidence investigators had found and when they might have started suspecting that Jayden's disappearance wasn't what it appeared to be. The McCoy's video also captured Josh Gross stating that Jayden hadn't lived with them long and wasn't in school at the time of his disappearance. These details add another layer of complexity to understanding Jayden's living situation and whether there were warning signs that might have been missed. The fact that investigators had left clothing evidence at the property suggests they were treating the home as a potential crime scene, even while the official narrative remained that Jayden was a missing child. This indicates that law enforcement may have had suspicions about the family's story earlier than was publicly revealed. The Jayden Spicer case raises uncomfortable questions that extend beyond this single tragedy. How many other missing child cases might involve family members who know exactly what happened to the child? How do investigators balance the need to trust grieving family members with the statistical reality that children are most often harmed by people close to them? The case also highlights the vulnerability of children within their own families. Jayden trusted his mother completely, trusted her enough to take medication she gave him, trusted that she would protect him, trusted that she would care for him when he was vulnerable. That trust was not just betrayed but weaponized against him in the most fundamental way possible. For Child Protection Services, the case underscores the challenge of monitoring families with previous involvement in the system. Gross had a history with CPS, including a conviction for endangering a minor, but this wasn't enough to prevent what happened to Jayden. The system designed to protect children had touched this family before, but had failed to prevent this ultimate tragedy. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this entire case is imagining Jayden's final moments. This was a boy who was afraid of the dark and didn't like insects, two fears that seem almost innocent when you consider what he actually faced. In his last conscious moments, Jayden likely trusted that his mother was giving him something to help him sleep, never imagining that she was about to end his life. The image of this energetic, superhero-loving child taking medication from his mother, probably complaining about the taste or asking if he could stay up just a little longer, is almost unbearable to contemplate. Jayden went to sleep in his favorite Sonic the Hedgehog pajamas, probably dreaming about adventures and heroes, never knowing that he would never wake up again. Even in death, Jayden's dignity was stripped away. Rather than being treated with the care and respect that any child deserves, his small body was buried in a plastic tote in a remote location, hidden away like evidence of a crime, rather than honored as the precious child he was. As this case moves through the legal system, the community of Jackson, Kentucky continues to grapple with how to honor Jayden's memory while processing the betrayal of his mother's actions. The Spider-Man-themed casket represents more than just a funeral arrangement. It's a symbol of the community's commitment to remembering Jayden as he was, not as a victim of violence, but as a boy who loved superheroes and brought joy to everyone around him. The students who wore red and blue in his honor understood something profound about how to respond to tragedy. They chose to celebrate what made Jayden special rather than focus solely on how he died. This response shows a maturity and compassion that stands in stark contrast to the actions of the adult who was supposed to protect him. But even as the community works to heal and remember Jayden positively, the questions raised by his death continue to resonate. How do we protect children when their greatest danger comes from within their own homes? How do we balance trust in grieving families with the need for thorough investigation? How do we help communities recover when their compassion has been exploited and their efforts misdirected? Today, residents of Jackson, Kentucky still lock their doors a little tighter, but not because they fear strangers lurking in the shadows. They lock their doors because they've learned that the greatest threats to children often come from the people who are supposed to love and protect them most. They've learned that evil can wear the mask of a grieving mother, that lies can be wrapped in desperate pleas for help, and that trust can be weaponized against an entire community's desire to do good. Jayden Spicer should have started school this fall, probably excited to tell his classmates about his favorite superheroes and maybe reluctant to wake up early for classes. Instead, his empty desk serves as a reminder of a life cut short by the person he trusted most in the world. His story serves as more than just another true crime case. It's a stark reminder that predators don't always look like the monsters we imagine. Sometimes they look like the mother making desperate pleas for help finding her missing child. Sometimes they sound like the voice on the other end of a 911 call, trembling with what seems like genuine anguish. But perhaps most importantly, Jayden's story is a testament to the power of community compassion, even when that compassion is exploited and betrayed. The volunteers who searched for him, the students who wore his favorite colors, the family members who refused to give up hope, they all represent the best of human nature, even in the face of its worst manifestations. To this day, when people in Jackson, Kentucky see a child wearing Sonic the Hedgehog pajamas or playing with Spider-Man toys, they think of Jayden Spicer, not as a victim, but as a reminder of the innocence and joy that makes every child worth protecting. And in a world where trust can be so easily betrayed and compassion can be so cruelly exploited, that might be the most important legacy a 10-year-old boy could leave behind. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like the video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more gripping true crime stories. And most importantly, turn on the notification bell. That way you'll be the first to know whenever we release a new case. Your support helps us keep bringing you these powerful stories, and turning on notifications ensures you never miss a single update.